Okay, great. Hopefully you're here for this ForeFlight session. If you saw it advertised, it was called ForeFlight Essentials, but we're really going to focus today on how to optimize your iPad. And we'll get started. Jeremy already mentioned this is a Wings credit course. I'll throw the QR code up here in just a moment, but I want to go forward and introduce myself. So I joined ForeFlight 1 year ago this month. I'm currently a student pilot, kind of closing in on my VFR solo cross country and check ride and all that good stuff, and have been using ForeFlight from day one. I do like to get kind of a sense of who's in the room. Do we have anybody that's new to ForeFlight? Okay, awesome. Do we have any people on the other end, like your veterans, power user people? I don't know, there's always a lot to learn, right? So anybody first time at Sun and Fun, like me? Awesome, welcome. Well, thanks for trusting us with your time and your Saturday morning. We've worked hard to make this valuable, so hopefully you'll learn at least one thing, but I'm gonna move pretty quickly, but let me just tell you a little bit about my further background. I spent 20 years in private industry. Part of that time was owning my own business. I taught adults in financial services, and then I pivoted, like Jeremy and I are both former high school teachers. I was a STEM educator. I taught engineering. I have a physics degree and an MBA, and I coach kids in robotics. And so I love teaching people about technical stuff. And I'm learning a ton myself, so we'll walk through this together. There's 3 parts. I'm just welcoming us all to Sun and Fun, even though it's almost over. And by the way, we do go fairly quickly, not on purpose. We have a lot to cover. We want to give you a ton of value. If you're inclined to take notes, like I'm an educator, I love it. You know, I think you learn better when you take notes, but if you want to sit back and listen, you can follow along with your device if you'd like. But we do record these sessions, and they'll be online within the next couple of weeks at this website, along with all the other content that we've ever prepared. It's out on YouTube also, so go to foreflight.com/videos. So you don't have to feel like, I'm going to miss out. You guys are here, so a great resource anytime. I do want to call out this. Has anybody used the Discover tab? It's new-ish. It was new last July, so nobody? Okay, great. You'll learn at least one thing. So this tab is available. Probably you'd have to go find it in the More button down there. And if you call it up, it has 2 main purposes. And we're calling it out because the first one is really to help us as aviators to connect with other aviators in the community around the country in the US. And one day we'll be doing this for other parts of the world, but right now you can see there's events. Okay, so the AOPA and the EAA has partnered with us to give us their data about all their chapter events that are happening around the country. And then we display them on a map that's searchable. You can zoom in. Like you'll see right here, I've zoomed in, and we have Sun and Fun right there. And if we click on it, we get some details about the event, where it is, and other links, and what's happening. That's sponsored by the AOPA gave us that information. Shows you where it is. You can click in on the map, zoom in. And so events is one thing that you can tap into on the Discover tab. The other great place that I love is if you're getting started or you just want to keep learning more about ForeFlight. A lot of people asked us, could you please put some of your content to learn inside the app? So you can do that, as you can see right here. These are, if you swipe to the right, you can get essential first steps, or if you're trying to learn more about whatever one of these categories, we've preloaded our videos and you can watch it right there on your iPad. All right, so 2 hot topics on Discover. All right, now let's talk about why does optimizing your iPad matters. Like the way I like to think about it is, hey, we pre-flight our plane every single time we fly, right? So why wouldn't we pre-flight our iPad? And flying is really complicated. I think it's one of the most complex things that human beings have ever done. We've only been doing it for 150 years, and now there's this iPad that's a really complex piece of technology, and there's ForeFlight that's on this complicated piece of hardware to help us do this really complicated thing called flying. So we should make sure that we have it set up, right, to give us the most out of what we're asking it to do, and we're asking it to do a lot, right? So I like this question to help frame why is this important is what do we expect from our electronic flight bag? Well, we expect it to do all of that, right? Charts and maps and graphs, and we want it to do it in a device right? Like, so we're asking it to do a lot, just like we're asking ourselves to do a lot, to fly the plane and make sure the plane is ready. So let's make sure that our iPad is optimized in every way possible. I know I'm not going to touch on every single way, but we're going to touch on some of the most important ways this morning to make sure that your iPad's ready to do all of this, okay? So let's start, and I'm sure you all know what ForeFlight is. What I love about ForeFlight is we have pilots and software people, some of whom are pilots, and business people, some of whom are pilots, all collaborating to make apps for pilots that are intelligent, that help flying easier, be safer, so we can do it more wisely and hopefully more enjoyably. All right, so what are we going to learn today? Every good pilot has a checklist, so we're going to use this checklist to talk about what we're going to learn. All right, we're going to start by making sure that you choose the best iPad for you, and we'll talk about what does that look like and some tools to help you do that. Then the main piece we're going to focus on is essential iOS and ForeFlight settings, okay? We'll talk real briefly about avoiding and handling in-flight issues, okay, which mainly revolve around making sure that your iPad stays on and powered, okay? We'll dive in a little bit to our connectivity and avionics integration resources and how to make sure you know how to do that and what resources you need to walk through that. We'll touch on some essential accessories to keep your iPad ready and working. And I backed up, let's back up here. And then we'll finish up with kind of an annual maintenance checklist, okay? So let's move forward into, I'm going backwards. Let's go forwards. All right, please take a look at these two icons on the left, the magenta box and the little tap hand. Just look for that. That'll help you kind of stay focused. Where are we moving around in the app? And you can follow along if you'd like, but you don't have to. So let's start with choosing an iPad. There's basically 4 big models, right? We all know there's big, 13-inch, all the way down to 8-inch. How many of us fly with a mini? Like, it's generally most of us. Like, I've flown with the 11-inch and had it in my lap. It's kind of too big. I fly in 172s. I'm training, right? So it's a little bit too big. But you know, the first thing is you've got to choose the size that works for you and your cockpit and how you do most of your flying. This is the primary recommendation that we do make, though, is that if you are in a position to, you know, make a new decision around an iPad, if you don't have the cellular chip, then you don't have access to the GPS data that comes native with that on the iPad. So if you've maybe recently bought one and you're like, oh, bummer, I didn't buy the cellular chip, well, go trade it in, and Apple will give you a credit, and maybe you have to spend a little extra money, but it's going to be worth it because you'll have access to all that ForeFlight makes available, all right? Now, depending on the size cockpit you have, you know, maybe you want the mini, maybe you want the 11-inch. It's a great all-around choice. And if you want high performance and you have more room in your cockpit, then go get the Pro. You'll have the best display. So it's really 3 choices, right? Choose your size, choose your connectivity. Again, we're recommending the cellular, so you get the internal GPS, and then choose your storage. We would recommend, ideally, 256 gig. You could probably get away with 128, but you don't want to be wondering, oh, geez, am I going to have enough room to store everything I need for ForeFlight, plus all my pictures, plus all my music, plus all the million apps that I have. If you're like me, I have too many apps on my devices. So choosing an iPad, and if you're not aware already, you can put ForeFlight on 3 separate devices. You get 3 licenses, 3 seats, 2 iPads and iPhone, or 2 iPhones and iPad, and every subscription will get you access without a seat to ForeFlight on the web. Okay, so that's choosing your iPad. Now let's dive into these essential settings, okay? First and foremost, we want to make sure that you have the most recent version if you want to get the most out of, I mean, Jeremy and I earlier this week previewed probably 24, a couple dozen new features that are available that many people may not be aware of, but if you're staying up to date on the version, so let's talk about how you do that, okay? So can everybody see down here where it says about? That's where you go check it. All right, and let me back up and ask this question. How many folks have reset your iPad, like powered it off and powered it on in the last 30 days? Okay, good. There's some discipline. All right, good for you. You should always be doing that. That'll help clean things up. But this is the place to go check, do I have the most current version? And the place to look is right up here. Let me back up and let's see. So this was, when I took this screenshot, the current version on my iPad was 17.1.1, okay? And that's the place to go look, what is my current installed app on my iPad? And the place to go double check what is currently out is, of course, the App Store. So I've just navigated to the home screen. We're going to go down here to the familiar A with the App Store, and we're going to click into that, and now search for ForeFlight, and then we're going to call it up and open up that app. Now, the first thing we're going to see, this indication right here will tell you immediately if you need to update it, because it will say update. Magical. But there's a couple other places in here that will help cue you to what is it that it needs to update to. When I screenshot this, the current version was 17.1.2. So clearly at the time, I was not up to date. So the place to go, actually I want to move over here and show you, this is something that actually I learned while I was preparing for this. That what's new, everybody see the little arrow right next to it? If you click on that, you'll get version history from all the versions that have been installed on the App Store by ForeFlight. And if you're curious, you can go look at what's, there's some details on what's been added and what's new, and more details on how it's been upgraded. So let's tap into update, and then we can now see that it says open, because I went and updated it. And now we're going to go back to, there's a preview of that what's new page. Okay, so there's all the version history. You can click in and look for more details. Anything that's blue over here, if you want more details, click on the blue more, and you can go like, okay, what do I get with 17.1.3, which is the current version, by the way. Okay, so let's go back, and we're going to tap more again, and we're going to go scroll down to about, where we can now go back and see, okay, look, I've updated it, and I can confirm that I have the most current version. So just make the loop, take the tour, check what you have, go to the App Store and see what is available, and then update it. You can go confirm it right there. Okay, let's close that. And now we're going to navigate back out to look at some more iPad settings. All right, so we're going to tap our familiar settings button, the gear looking icon down there, and we're going to click into that. And the place we're going to first go is to tap into software updates, because along with ForeFlight, we want to make sure that we're staying current with the most recent version of iOS, as long as your iPad can handle that. And we want to make sure that they're synced up, and I'll give you a pro tip here in a second. We're going to click into that. And you can see here currently, before this week, the most current version was 18.3.2. This was showing when I was updating it in my iPad. And many of you may have it set to automatically update, which I do. But I want to make this kind of pro tip here as we're looking at these features. We're going to go in here and look at automatic updates. What our recommendation is to turn off iPad iOS automatic updates, because what you want to do is wait for the email. How many of y'all are familiar with the 2 emails you get from ForeFlight, right? Hey, we're about to push out a new, we're checking on things, we're making sure, we're quality testing. But you don't want the iPad doing that for you, in our opinion. You want to manually be in charge of installing. Like we would recommend auto download, then you don't have to think about that. But then when you get that email, you're like, okay, I'm going to go in and manually install my update to ForeFlight and or manually install my update to the iOS, because I've got the quality control from ForeFlight saying we're all clear to fly with both of those things. All right, we all clear on that? Okay, so this is where you go in and turn that off. Go, I don't want to automatically install my iOS update, so just flip that switch off, and then you can be in control of that. All right, now we're going to take a few minutes to talk about how can I extend my battery usage. Anybody have battery issues in the cockpit? Or maybe you always have a battery backup, you're plugging into your panel. But I want to give you some tips that will minimize battery usage while you're flying. All right, so let's open ForeFlight and start there. Okay, so we're going to start with tapping back into more. Okay, and then we're going to go to our settings, okay, with our ForeFlight settings. And there we go. We can see there's 3 modes up here: light, dark, and system. There's also a slider for the brightness, which you can use that. Obviously, the less bright it is, the less battery it's going to use. But you may find that flying with dark, suits your purposes even in the daytime, and that will use less battery in dark mode. Okay, so you can just turn that on, and now you have dark settings. Okay, now it's a little harder to see on this screen right here, but we're looking at my dark settings, and we're going to tap into that on that arrow right there, and see that I've also got this set of choices for my aeronautical map theme inside of ForeFlight. You can choose that to be dark or light. All right, dark will use less battery. Okay, and then we're going to go back and open up our iPad settings now again and do some screen brightness adjustments. There's a couple ways to do this. Okay, obviously this one has a slider down here where you can just drag it back and forth. The more brightness you have. Sometimes mine gets stuck because maybe I hit it by accident. I don't know if y'all have ever done that, but we want to be purposeful about how much brightness we set, because that will allow us to modulate how much battery usage we're using, so we can click that. And then there's something else that I actually learned checking this out. If you want to set True Tone and turn it on, okay, this will give you an automatic adaptation in the iPad display to display it based on ambient lighting conditions. It'll make the colors appear in an optimal fashion. So this isn't really about battery usage. It's about, hey, make the colors look cool and best for whatever setting I'm in. If I'm in the cockpit, right? Maybe it's night flying, maybe it's day flying, but the iPad will automatically do that for you. So we're going to turn that on. I've slid the brightness back a little bit, and we're going to go look at how many of y'all use the control center. Pull down from the top right on your iPad. A lot of people don't know that you can do that. I'm going to show you a couple cool tips and tricks here. This is another place where you can just go, I want to turn down the brightness. We've probably all done that, right? So you push it down and then, hey, I've got a little bit less brightness. That's kind of an easy one. But what's not obvious, I think, is this right here. Can everyone see the plus sign? All right, that says, hey, I want to do some customizing on my control pad to maybe make it easier to do less tapping around while I'm flying, and also to have it accessible. So we're going to look at an example, okay? And we're going to click in to the plus. And let me highlight this, because this, even when I'm doing it, it's kind of hard to see. Do y'all see where it says add a control? Everybody see that? So we're going to go add a control, and the example we're going to use is low power mode. Okay, I taught a friend of mine back in Dallas who's not a pilot, who'd never even heard of this. And you're like, yep, you can actually set on this toggle. So we're going to open that up. And you see now we can basically customize our control center. Okay, now this may be hard to see, but right there you see the low power mode. It's basically a choice. You click on it, and it will put it over in your control center. Okay, everybody with me? All right, so let's go do that right now. Click, and now you can see it's been added right there. And this would also, if I hit any of those minus signs, you can like get rid of stuff. You're like, I don't really want to be distracted with all these other things. And you can, this is where you do your customizing. And then if you go tap on the screen 2 times, the control center will disappear. But I'm going to open it back up and show you how to put dark mode and night mode on from the control center. Okay, so right now you can see over here, do y'all see that? It's kind of, I don't know, like it's a half moon, half sun icon right in the middle with a magenta box around it. And then down at the bottom, we now have our low power button, okay? So what I'm going to show you is how to add this button right here, which is kind of cool because it instantly turns on dark mode. You can add that, so you can swipe down and click it instead of having to go through all those other steps inside of the iOS. This is just a quick place to go do this in a different way. And I want to summarize right here. These are 3 of the different ways that you can put your iPad in dark mode or night mode, if you want to call it that. You can do it in the control center like we just showed. You can literally speak to Siri and say, hey Siri, turn on dark mode, and it'll do it instantly, which might be helpful if you have your headset Bluetooth to your iPad, which is another optimizing way to use the iPad. Or you can actually set it to do it automatically. All right, I'm going to tap out of that and show you, again, it's a little bit hard to see, but you see where it says automatic? When we're in the light and dark mode choices, the switch currently is off. If I turn it on, let me back up. I think I skipped that a little too fast. This is where I can make it automatic, which will be, I can set a custom time frame for like, hey, I want it to turn on dark mode every night at around sunset, maybe 7 o'clock or whatever you choose. Okay, so we're gonna move forward, turn that on. Now something else that I don't know how many of y'all pay attention to this, but down here, y'all see where it says background app refresh. Okay, anybody familiar with that already? This is a way for your iPad to basically say, hey, you don't have to worry about updating your iPad, all your apps. We'll do that for you. Well, that takes up power, and it's especially if you're in the air and you've got a cellular chip. It's looking around like, hey, I need a signal so I can go do what I'm supposed to be doing in the background, which might include updating your apps. And that just, you don't need to be updating your apps while you're in the air. Like that's what we would recommend. So we're going to take a look at that and go in, click into that, and you can see right now. It was on, when I am on Wi-Fi, do my background app refresh. Well, maybe you're in a cockpit with Wi-Fi and it's in the background trying to update your apps while you're like, hey, I don't need my iPad doing that right now. I need it to help me fly with ForeFlight, right? So you can see I've got certain things toggled on and off, but I'm gonna go in and say, you know what, just turn that off, okay? And maybe this is something you do before you go fly. Or maybe you do it all the time so that you can be in control of updating your apps. That's totally up to you, but this is where you go do that. Okay, and we're gonna step back, and now you can see none of my apps will be updating because I turned it off, right? So that's just another tweak to help your iPad not be using so much power and just focusing on maximizing your use of the tools that you need while you're in the cockpit, okay? Now here's another place we're gonna step into display and brightness, okay? Now this is an option. This is what I was talking about earlier. I can go set up my light and dark settings. Right here I can customize that. So we're gonna click into that and see that I have a few choices. I can make a custom schedule, or maybe you just set it to be dark from sunset to sunrise. That's totally your choice, but this is where you do it. If you click on a custom schedule, then you can set the time for the morning and the evening when it turns off and on, all right? We're gonna go back here now and see that I shifted it to, from 10 to 7, I want it on night mode, all right? Now, we're gonna move down, it's in that same screen. This is a place where I can play around with color temperature. Anybody ever moved this around before? This will, if you turn it all the way down, like you could just play around with this and it makes the screen, this is a way to optimize it. It's really not about the battery, it's just like what's good on your eyes, right? Do you want the colors kind of warmer? Do you want them less warm? So if you play around with that, you can kind of go, okay, this is what I like, all right? So move back here. Now we're gonna move up to accessibility, right? And we're gonna click in and see, we're gonna do something that we haven't done yet, which is, sorry, I went the wrong way. Okay, so we're gonna click into accessibility and talk about how we can change our display and text sizes, but what we're after is to get to the color filters, okay? So we're gonna we're gonna scroll down, and everyone see right here in the middle where it says color filters, okay? This is something I didn't even know this existed until I was kind of preparing for this. And it's really gonna be a way for you to put a red shift onto your iPad display. So your mileage may vary on this, maybe you don't like, but if you're night flying and you're trying to turn down the white light in your cockpit, and I'm only gonna be able to show you the steps, but not the display, and if anybody wants to see me after, I'll actually turn it on for you because the iPad does something that it won't let you screenshot for me to display it, but I'm gonna show you how to get there. So you click into color filters, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna turn that on, and then I get some other options to mess around with, okay? The only one we're gonna focus on is down here called color tint. All right, you guys with me? All right, so we're gonna click into that. And now I've got two new sliders, okay? There's an intensity slider and there's a hue slider. And I've got two taps here because if we wanna optimize this for a red shift on my screen, then I'm gonna turn the intensity all the way up, and then I'm gonna turn the hue all the way down. And when you're done with that, it'll look like this, okay? Now, hopefully we'll have time for a couple of questions. and some QA with a demo here if we need to, and I can turn that on and at least show it to you on my iPad, because when you do this, your iPad will actually look red. It will have a red tint in everything you see. Now, again, you may not like that, but it's something that's available in case you go, hey, I want my cockpit only using red light, including ForeFlight, okay? So we're now gonna go back to general, and this is a bug that, this is something we've discovered. I learned about this a couple of weeks ago. Oh, can you please take a look? Thank you very much for doing that. He actually followed the steps. Take a look at his mini iPad right there. That's what it'll look like if you do those steps. Thank you very much. Somebody did that for me a couple weeks ago when I was previewing this with some folks, so appreciate that. It's actually possible, but not to screenshot. It won't let you do that. Okay, let's back up, and there is a known issue, and thankfully Jeremy and I were on a call with our support people a few weeks ago where we cover things that are like known issues that people are sending us tickets on, and like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but let me show what's happening, and we troubleshot that. So I did not even know this setting existed, so maybe you're like me. Let's click into, again, to display and brightness, but we're down here looking at display zoom, all right? So that's a setting that has two choices. One is the default. Has anybody ever done this before? Okay, way to go. But like, this was brand new to me, and let me just walk through it with you, okay? This more space option right here, if you were to choose that for whatever reason, it gives you more space to work on your iPad with the display, and you'd kind of, unbeknownst to you, you'd be creating an issue for yourself that would affect ForeFlight. So let's go look at what happens. I'm going to click on that. Doesn't really look like anything changed, but I'm moving over to our synthetic vision, and those colors may be hard to see, but can anybody tell me what's missing on this screen in our HUD view here? Like, what do you see that might be missing? Anybody? Because it's not obvious. Well, let's take a look over here. There's our speed tape. You're like, where's the numbers? There's nothing on the top or the bottom, right? It's supposed to be moving, right? Now let's move over here and go, well, what's going on over here? I just have a number. I don't really have a tape. Okay, so this, when you turn on that display zoom more space setting, this is the result, is that it will basically cause ForeFlight to not display those two tapes in a moving fashion. Okay, so let's see, let me back up a second. Oh, we'll go forward. So turn on more space, use more space. This is the result. That's not what we want. Take a look on the right. That's what it's supposed to look like, right? That's what we all see in the cockpit, right? But if you turn on the more space display setting, you will get this, okay? And so our advice is don't use that setting while you're flying. Not too complicated, but if you did it, you wouldn't know. Like we didn't know, and now we know, so don't do that. Okay, so I'm just going to touch, we have a little bit more to go here. There's really not a ton of, like, how many folks have ForeFlight crash in the cockpit? Every once in a while? It'll happen once, right? So that's not an issue we're trying to address because it generally doesn't happen. But one thing that can happen, like especially if you're flying around in, I don't know, North Texas in the summer, like, and you have your iPad sitting there in the cockpit, this is going to happen. Your iPad is too hot. Now, I'm going to show you the solution in another section in just a minute where we talk about accessories that can help with that. Okay, so in-flight issues with ForeFlight and your iPad is really about managing your battery and keeping it cool. Okay, so let's skip ahead to connectivity and talk about what tools do we have to make sure that our devices are connected to our iPad and they're working, and where can we access information and diagnostics and help if we need it. Right, so let's click into the devices tab right there. And we're going to take a look at, right now I connected it to the simulator. Anybody fly with ForeFlight simulator on your iPad ever? Does anybody know that exists?
They don't have it. We have it.
Oh, we have it. Okay, so nobody's going to have it. My bad. That's why you won't see this. But I put it up here to show you, hey, this is an example when you have a device connected. It will be on this device page showing you hey, I've got a device connected. This is our in-app flight simulator. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to add our Sentry device, or it could be another, your other ADS-BN. It might be Stratus or whatever you happen to use. But we're going to add the Sentry, and now we've added it. And so this is where we will see, and oh, we're connected, okay? And then we can come over, click into that, and gives me all this other data that I might need to access. We can actually scroll down and see if I ever have any issues. I've got these blue diagnostic links. We would recommend that you could, reach out to our support folks before you go clicking around in these, because if you ever have issues with your Sentry, this is where you can go send diagnostics to our support team and get technical help from this page, okay? So we're going to move ahead and go back to this screen where up here in this, you might not see it, there's a little info icon. And if you click on it, it'll give you the current status of your connected, in this case, Sentry device or whatever other device you have connected to ForeFlight. Okay? So we're gonna move ahead. And now I'm going to point you to some general resources. We connect with a lot of different avionics. And that's kind of summarized here in the middle. You might not be able to see all the providers, obviously Garmin, Sentry, L3 Harris, Dynon, Avionics, and so on, Stratus, obviously. Those are device families that we connect with, right? And if you need help with any of that, the place to go is ForeFlight.com Connect. That is a web page that will give you guidance and support on all the types of, and there's FAQs there that if you ever get stuck or like, hey, I need help connecting or I'm having issues. And honestly, the one thing that, if you ever get, like, I don't want to do all that research, like, could somebody from ForeFlight please help me? Like, just email team@foreflight.com. How many of y'all have done that before? Okay, not a lot. That means hopefully it's working right most of the time. But if you ever get stuck, honestly, one of the things that I learned so early, even a year ago, like, I think it was like this week, a year ago, and I'm just going to insert this story here because I have had so much fun interacting with the folks who have enjoyed using ForeFlight long before I have, especially the people who went from paper to EFB world. Anybody like that in here? Anybody? Okay. My hat is like, okay, way to go. I don't know how people used to fly like that. I've learned how to do paper planning and all that stuff, and man, thank God for electronic flight bags. But when I got the job offer last year, one of the things I do in my free time is I mentor kids in robotics, and one of our high school mentors walked into our shop one night, and he runs a software company and he's a private pilot, and so I was like, hey man, I'm going to work with ForeFlight. He literally like this. He was like, oh my God, dude, I love that app. And we were in the classroom, and there was a whiteboard marker right there. He literally dragged me over to the whiteboard. He started drawing. He's like, let me show you how waypoints work. And I was like, holy man, wow, this guy's excited about this software. But I think ForeFlight has done such an unbelievable job in a time when it's kind of hard to find high tech plus high touch. Does anybody ever else get frustrated with that? Where you're like, can I please have some help from a live person? So if you ever need help, to email, and maybe you never need help, but if you email team@foreflight.com, you're going to get a pilot who's on the line. You'll get a response. I think our average response time is like 22 minutes. So just get ready for some awesome support to go along with this awesome technology. And so if you want to go do some research on connectivity, this is a place to start doing it. There's another place to go do it. This buying guide is actually available. If you want a hard copy for something, you can come to our booth. But take a look at this down here, foreflight.com/buying-guide-PDF. Or you can just search it up. Just search up buying guide ForeFlight. And this will be the link that'll pop up. And you can go scroll down, and there's a matrix of how does the Sentry devices that we offer connect with different groups of avionics families, okay? So let's keep moving. There's also our pilot's guide. How many of you guys use our pilot's guide on some regular basis? It's available in the app on the Documents tab. I know it's 1,000 pages, but it is searchable. And if you search up Connect, it has an entire section. It's section 25, right? Inside the pilot's guide, it has that same basic matrix of support for all the different avionics that we connect with, right? So foreflight.com / in this case, pilots-guide, or you can just Google ForeFlight pilot guide, and it will pop up and you can open the PDF and search around. Okay, I'm going to remind us all, this is our recommendation when it comes to connectivity. The way you maximize your connectivity on the iPad with ForeFlight is to have the cellular chip iPad model, okay? And again, if you don't, people are like, I just bought an iPad and I don't have that. Take it back to Apple and get a credit and it will cost you a little extra, but I think it pays for itself just in safety. I just won't fly without ADS-B on my ForeFlight so I can turn on the traffic and have backup traffic. Maybe you have great avionics, but I like ForeFlight to help me out with that, all right? Okay. Oh, and by the way, this is where you'll see, okay, the source here for, if you have that cellular chip, it'll tell you, hey, what's the source? I've got my iOS pulling GPS data because I have that chip, okay? So, down to the More tab, we're going to look at a different type of connectivity, which is Bluetooth. How many of y'all connect your Bluetooth, your headsets to your iPad using Bluetooth? Anybody do that? Okay, I think it's just another way to add to your situational awareness, and we're going to look at why would that be important with ForeFlight. That could be your headsets, your ADS-B receivers, and whatever other avionics that you have. So let's click into the settings up here, and this, I personally love this feature. Maybe some people are like, I don't want anybody talking to my head. I got enough going on up there. But if you take a look up here in the ForeFlight alert settings, so we searched up alerts in settings, and we have all these alerts that are available, right? General alerts, airspace and NOTAM alerts, and so on, that I can toggle on and off to my liking. But then this is the one I like, speak all alerts, okay? If you toggle that on and you have a Bluetooth connection from your headset to your iPad, whatever alerts you happen to choose will not just give you a visual pop-up on the screen, it will speak it into your ears. I like not having to touch things while I'm trying to fly. If somebody can tell me like, hey, we got traffic alert, hazard alert, whatever the other alerts that you may choose to have on, okay? So we're gonna turn that on. Oh, wait, let me back up because this sounds really cool. Ready?
ForeFlight audio alerts are now active. Let's do some flying.
Yeah, let's go do some flying. I don't know if y'all heard that, but there you go. It'll tell you in the voice that you'll hear because it sounds like that when you hear. Let's do it one more time. Ready? Oh, he just did it. Nice. Very good. It's working. All right.
ForeFlight audio alerts are now active. Let's do some flying.
Okay. We made the point there. Okay. Now, anybody use AirDrop for flight plan sharing? That's one way that you can optimize your use of the iPad. So let's go look at how we do that. We're going to zip into our Flights tab for just a minute down here at the bottom. And we go, okay, if I've got a flight plan that I've created, the way I'm going to share it, take yourself to the top right-hand corner. We see that little up arrow with the box. That means send this somewhere. So we're going to click on that. And you go, where can I send it? I could send it by a text message to one of my friends. I could message it. I could mail it. But AirDrop right there is one of your options, okay? So maybe you're flying with your safety pilot or one of your buddies in the cockpit or your significant other who's helping you out, whatever that looks like, and you go, hey, I'm going to share this with you so we can be working off the same plan. Okay, we've come down to some essential accessories. And by that, I'm going to be talking mainly about hardware to help me have my iPad where I want it in the cockpit. Okay, now, one of the accessories that we offer, again, is the ADS-B device family called Sentry. We have the Mini, we have the regular, and we have the Plus. The Plus is semi-new, added some features that we have a screen on the Plus. You can kind of see that down here. You get a backup track log. You will have an 18-hour battery. I think I've been using my Sentry Plus on the same battery charge since November. I mean, I do charge it up, but it lasts forever. The Sentry Plus, if you want more information about that, you can come to this webpage, come to the booth, or you can visit Sporties, where they also offer it. They're offering it at their booth here this week. And obviously they're somewhat device and I guess manufacturer agnostic, but our Sentry devices are offered out there. But another piece of hardware that we're going to have to decide on at some point, unless you just keep it on your lap, which is fine. I don't like flying it personally with the iPad in my lap. I'm trying to keep my eyes outside, so I really like having my iPad right there on the left side of the windshield. But there's really two types of mounts to put your iPad up in a plane. And we probably already know we can put one on a yoke like we see over here, okay? Some people like that. My CFI likes to fly with it that way and in portrait mode. But you can also do, like what I've done personally is I bought, actually I think it's like a $15 suction cup, and it works really good. I put it on I've got a mount that holds it to the suction cup. So you're gonna need a mount of some kind if you don't want to have it on your lap, okay? So that's an obvious accessory. Clearly, battery backup is wise. I don't know, I think battery management is like a 21st century life skill. Anybody agree? Like if you don't manage your batteries, you're like, what am I gonna do? My iPhone went dead. My iPad died in the cockpit, right? I'm not necessarily promoting this version that, I think it's a Flight Gear product. We're not necessarily promoting that, but it is available via Sporties. They've got 3 plugs, so you could have all 3 of your devices plugged in at the same time and stay charged in the cockpit. So, anybody have their iPad overheat ever? Man, a number of you, okay. So this, again, I am not necessarily promoting or recommending this my ForeFlight. They do make good stuff. I bought some stuff from them. But they do have this thing called an iPad cool case. There are other options out there, but the goal is eliminate heating. I should tell this story. I have a friend of mine who used to work at Microsoft, and he's a super smart guy. He's not a pilot, but he ran a ranch, and he has a big dually truck, and I was visiting him in Fredericksburg recently, and I opened the door to this truck, and this paper plate fell out on the floor, and he was like, don't worry about that. That's my sunshade for my iPhone. And he had like bent it up and put it in his little phone holder, and he goes, by the way, it works kind of good. And I'm like, well, that's a cheap way to keep your iPhone from getting too hot. But there are some professional products like this if you want to go down that trail. So, anybody have an Apple Pencil? All right, there's so many great ways to use it for annotating. This is what I do every time I'm getting my taxi clearance. That green color might be kind of hard to see, but I write down the taxi clearance as I'm getting it so I can read it back and follow it while I'm moving myself out to do my run-up and get to the hold short line. So an Apple Pencil is super helpful to do that. And if you mess up, you can go up here and go, hey, I need to clear that, or back up and take off the last one. Now let's look at, how many of you guys use our scratch pads? Okay, awesome. I use the scratch pad at least for this one purpose every time I fly. I go click on the ATIS because it gives me a template that looks like this, and it's kind of dark, it's hard to see, but I can put down my information, winds, sky, temperatures, runway, and of course the altimeter setting I need. And I'm using my Apple Pencil right there in the cockpit real quick to jot it down, and then I can go change whatever settings I need to before I get ready to taxi. Okay, so there's other places you can do that in documents, right? Annotating is available in documents. I've just shown you a couple ways. You can write notes, you can add shapes, you can do highlighting, you can add comments. So there's lots of ways that the Apple Pencil is helpful. Okay, so we're down here to the last piece of our checklist, and I'm just going to walk through. Actually, this was inspired by an article that I read on Sporties. Right, so if you go search up annual, I think it's keeping your iPad up to date or something like that. It's a really thorough article that goes into in-depth a lot of things that we've touched on here and some additional ones. So I kind of borrowed some of those ideas. This is a checklist. You go, hey, like I asked you, restart your iPad monthly. Why is that important? It'll clear some cache. It'll clean it up. Okay, yeah, please take a picture of this. This is not an exhaustive checklist. Okay, this is, I think, some of the best highlights that I pulled from that article. Okay, check your battery health and usage and take advantage of some of those pro tips that I was trying to highlight so that I'm sorry, say that again? The best answer to that is in less than about 2 weeks, Jeremy, right? Our media team, we're going to send the recording that we're making of this exact slideshow, and my voice talking over it will be on that video page. So you won't have to be like, oh, I have to take all the notes or take all the pictures. We're not going to play hide and seek with it. It'll be out in public for free on our website and our YouTube channel, right? So then you can, fast forward and reverse and pause and get the most out of this maybe a second time, okay? But delete unused apps and media. Anybody got some dead apps on their devices like I do? I'm like, oh my gosh, I got 4, 5, 6 screens of apps. Get rid of them, take them off. It'll free up memory and help you clean up and leave a lot of room for what you need on your device for flying, okay? This is the stuff we talked about at length. Update your iOS and ForeFlight regularly, but do manual updates. Don't let it happen automatically until you want to be in control of that. So when you get the all clear email from ForeFlight, you go, okay, now I'm going to do that, okay? There are updates for my Century updates, I don't know, once a week sometimes. It's on some regular basis, you're going to have firmware updates to your hardware. So just verify that those things, do it before you're in the cockpit. And you're like, oh, should I do that right now? Is it going to mess things up? Just do it. Make it part of your EFB checklist. Did y'all know that there's an EFB checklist? I should have included that. It's a really cool feature. I know Jeremy uses it like before we go flying, the night before, plug in and charge your devices and make sure ForeFlight's up to date. Make sure it's talking with the latest version of iOS that's been approved, okay? Optimize the control center. I walked you all through how to do that. Add low power, maybe the dark mode, and other things you can clean up so you're not being distracted by which one of these buttons am I supposed to push. And then double check that you always have about 10 gig of free storage, right? Because ForeFlight will be updating charts and maps and graphs in the background. And when you go to pack for a flight, if you're planned a flight and you send it to the flights, you want to make sure you're packing all the weather NOTAMs and other data that you might need before you go flying. All right, and then something else, consider enabling Find My iPad and iCloud backup, because we're all storing a lot of important data, right? And you don't want, I don't know, I've left devices in certain places. I check my phone I use my watch to find my phone about 3 times a day. Does anybody else do that? Right, so that's the kind of the end of the content I have for y'all on optimizing your iPad, but is there anybody who's checking ForeFlight out this morning that's not a user? Okay, awesome, everybody's a user. We'll skip this. Again, I'm going to reinforce this. This fanatical pilot support is actually a trademarked phrase, because it's not just a marketing tagline, it's actually what you'll experience if you ever reach out to get some human support for whatever kind of issue you're dealing with. Okay, I'm going to walk you through. If you haven't looked at our subscriptions lately, our Basic Plus is on offer for $125. That's good for most everyday flying, planning, post-flight. If you want to upgrade $250 a year, we do have show specials. It's 20% off to upgrade to either Pro Plus or Performance Plus. You'll get geo-reference plates at this level, some hazard avoidance, other synthetic vision. Everything at Pro Plus comes at $370 a year on our performance plan. The main thing you get here is pre-built aircraft performance profiles, okay? And you get some cool 3D tools that may not fit what you need. We're not going to be trying to upsell you. If you come to the booth, we want to find out what is it that will fit your flying. And these are the show specials. Come talk to us at the booth. And we do have gear, by the way, and I've got about 30 seconds. We have gear. Finally, for years we didn't offer it. You can buy a T-shirt, a hat, and that kind of stuff. I had ATP, like pilots coming up to me like, hey, you got some free merch, bro? And I'm like, we don't offer merch. But now we offer merch at the gear shop. Okay, thank you guys. I don't think we have time for QA. We always make ourselves available out in the hallway. I'll be out there in a little bit. Jeremy's up next. I appreciate your time. Come visit us at the hangar, and happy flying blue skies to everyone. All right.